We used to perhaps focus a lot on the big companies, but now we have more players coming into the industry. That creates more diversity for career opportunities. That's wonderful, right? And you both use the term buyer and seller side, right? And Renato, you made my day. You say growth isn't a problem for our industry. That made my day. But at the same time, we also know that change is the name of the game, right? It doesn't mean, even though we're growing, it doesn't mean the LSPs can just sit back and count their money, right? They have had to change because, Nataly, as you alluded to that, you have changed, right? So from what you have seen, tell us a bit about what you are seeing, how LSPs are having to adapt to this new reality.
Okay, yeah. So that's a very, very good point, Winnie. The thing is, there is a third player in this equation, which is technology companies, right? So you have buyers, sellers, and technology companies. Some LSPs will have their own technology, but they still play a role in this space. So you need to look at this from a macro perspective. From a macro perspective, and we can tell anecdotes and think about problems here and there and difficulties here and there. But from a macro perspective, what is happening is the trends that you see, and they have been and they're going to continue to be the same. Content is growing at a faster rate that the supply is generating. So content, put a number, grows by 30%, 100%, 500%, it doesn't matter. It grows more than the number of translators that come into the market every year, which grow at, let's say, a little bit over population growth, which is in the Western countries, in some cases in Japan, negative growth, right? So you have a decrease. So when you have more demand, more content, less supply, you need to increase automation. And this is where, these are the dynamics that change over time. Where LSPs tend to think about their business as language, quality, and price. These are not important things for the buyers. These are, price is negotiable, quality is the level that if you don't provide quality, you're not even in the market. The market takes you out. What really matters is the quality of your service and your on-time delivery, your reliability. If you focus on those things, on-time delivery, flexibility to change, being ready to adapt to what we talked in the beginning, this digital transformation that the client's going through. I mean, if you look, I'm looking at Magdalena here. I've known High Tech Passport for at least 20 years. I mean, we worked in Ventura Publisher. Oh my God, right? PageMaker. And today we're working on Illustrator, Figma. Collaboration is a big thing that wasn't, we wanted to have collaboration. I worked on a project for SAP with, we had to do 1,500,000 words. I needed 70 translators in the same office. You don't think about that today. So these are the changes. The changes that happen are how we adapt to this organizational changes. But keep in mind the trend, and I'm talking at a macro level, because if you're a Spanish translator, if you're a Chinese translator, you're going to say, Renato, you're full of shit, because there's a lot of competition, right? But growth, I don't know, Turkish is a language. I cannot say, oh, go learn Turkish, but Japanese, Norwegian, Scandinavian languages, Indonesian is a language that is growing significantly because it's the biggest market in Southeast Asia, to 300 million inhabitants, right? Yeah. Incredible growth opportunity. And so when I talk about the macro level, I'm talking about these trends. And that is the way that the buyer looks at things. They look at, I have a delivery schedule. We're talking now about continuous localization. Do you have a process that can take content constantly, churn it, and send it back to me within my Scrum, within my process, and let's keep going. And this is where flexibility, understanding the buyer need becomes the value. And it's not the quality of the translation, it's not the price of the translation. You're going to figure out those are your internal processes. If you deliver crap, the client is going to go away and find another vendor. That's simple. If you don't answer, if you promise you're going to deliver on Wednesday and you deliver on Friday and you don't let the client know ahead of time so that they prepare, you're not going to get the next project. That's essentially where the challenges are for LSPs, is understanding, maturing. And this is why you have so much consolidation, because the large buyers are buying from the large players because they understand business, not because they understand language.
Mm-hmm. So Nataly, you're on the buyer side. What are you seeing in terms of how LSPs have had to adapt?
Yeah, I mean, I can only speak to the LSPs that we work with in our situation, and a few, things that I've heard from other buyers in calls since COVID started. But I know that what Renato mentions is true. The agility and the relationship side is more important to us. And I would say, when I say agility, I mean both speed and adaptability. And it's more about adaptability than speed, I would say, because it's really about it's almost about preparedness and being able to tap into the right resources at the right time in the right capacity. One of the things that we've been working on just in general, even before COVID, was to ensure that our vendors had enough capacity so that when we do see spikes and surges, that they can actually handle the volumes. And of course, anybody can find a translator, for a language. And that's why I laugh. I get so many cold emails every day of people, reaching out and saying, hey, we offer the best quality in 200 languages, the best price. And I'm like, who do you think you're reaching out to? Like, number one, we don't need 200 languages. We need the languages that we have and maybe a few next level ones. And price is not our main focus. Speed and adaptability are. And so I think some of the changes we've seen due to COVID are just an increased need to pivot quickly. So we might plan something and then decide, you know what, we're not going to do that launch after all. Now the timing isn't right. Maybe these markets need a little bit of a break. We're going to launch that instead the following quarter, that kind of thing. The other thing that is just a general trend, but I believe is exacerbated with the pandemic, is, as Renato mentioned, more and more companies are doing continuous development. So continuous release on the product localization side. But what does that mean for marketing? Marketing has the accompanying campaigns and the accompanying product launches and the accompanying blog posts and emails and all of that content that's also transforming into more of a continuous service. So one thing I've written about and have been talking about a lot, actually for many years, and no one wants to listen, but I'm telling every LSP out there, this is a good idea if somebody will just do it, is we need a retainer model where a client can basically book a block of time that's guaranteed for them, whether they use it or not, almost like a cell phone plan used to be, where you had like X number of minutes that you could guarantee you have access to. Because for me, and for a lot of buyers that I've spoken with, we would pay a premium for that guaranteed availability. What we don't want is the minute we have a need to be told, oh, all the translators that normally work on your account are booked up with this other project and blah, blah, blah. We don't want any of that. We don't have time for that. But what we would pay for is guaranteed availability. So I've suggested a retainer model. I've suggested other things. What will happen if that doesn't become an offering that's kind of like a standard offering in this industry is that more and more buyers are going to hire translators themselves, and they will hire the linguists internally. If they have a guaranteed amount of work that's coming through steadily, which with continuous delivery, continuous marketing, content marketing, recurring traffic, you have to have recurring content, you have to have a steady, continuous pace. I'm going to see more and more of that happening. I've seen it in various different companies. We hired internal linguists, and we still depend a lot on LSPs, but other companies are doing that as well. And the reason is because the LSPs can't keep up. Like if I could have found, back when I first started at HubSpot, an LSP that could fully support all of my needs with that capacity and that level of quality, of course I would have outsourced everything. But it just wasn't possible.
Mm-hmm.
Most LSPs are not, don't have the business model set up that way. They want price per word. And that isn't how I want to pay. That is not what I care about. I don't care about the individual word. That isn't where I get my value. It's fine to use that to measure throughput or to measure other things. But as for pricing, I believe that is the wrong pricing model. And I believe with the pandemic, more and more people are realizing as they go digital and they move into, you know, online models, that if they want to have a strong business, they're going to need recurring traffic, recurring emails, recurring campaigns, and that's going to lead to more and more people needing that type of offering. So that's just my that's my pet.
So the LSPs that are listening, please take note of the business model that Nataly is talking about.